So resistance, one of the elements of the perfect storm. Remember what I said, ambivalence is the natural state of being. So it's normal to be ambivalent. You could think, most of us think about resistance as something that's negative and oppositional. I used to teach a class once a year in Cleveland for a week on dealing with resistance. I would always start the class off by saying to people, okay, why did you come? What do you want to learn? I swear to God, 95% of the people would say, I came to learn how to get other people to do what I want them to do. Okay, I felt like Monty Python. No, that's control is next door. This is resistance. If you think about it, resistance is it's never a negative experience. I mean, it's never an internal experience. We never experience ourselves as resisting, you know. So if I say, Carolyn, go hit your head against the wall, Carolyn would say, no. I would say, aha, you're resisting. No, she's not resisting. She's taking care of herself. It's not an internal experience. So think about the thing I said earlier about multiple realities, the 2 + 2 = 5. If you think about it that way, resistance is just kind of a manifestation of other realities. Other people who have it's a need in a different direction. If you were ever in a managerial position and you're trying to introduce some change, usually a manager says we're doing this and they get pushed back. Most managers will take it as a threat and try to power their way through it, rather than saying, really, tell me what's your point? Say more about your reluctance. You try to find out what's the underlying need. So wherever there's it's kind of a law of human and organizational physics. Whenever there's a force for change, there is always a force for maintaining the status quo. I'm a change agent. I have change agent on my business card. It's how I think about myself. But you know what? I have just as much respect for the status quo as they do for change. If you didn't have status quo, you wouldn't have things like legacy. You wouldn't have traditions. You'd always throw out the baby with the bathwater. You know, so there's a lot to be said for honoring the status quo, as well as I know the change is sexy and it's exciting, but there's a lot to be said for the other side of it as well. If you can't read the caption, this is Moses with the 10 Commandments. I hope this isn't meant to be a criticism of our current lifestyle. So whenever you introduce any kind of change, if you go home today and you say to your family, you know what, we're going to do things differently. We're all going to have dinner together and we're going to talk about our day. Okay, there's an implicit criticism in that. It's like, hey, what's wrong with the way we've been doing things? If you're ever in a position where you're trying to introduce a change, you just need to recognize there's always, however subtle, an implicit criticism of what we've been doing. Unavoidable, just be sensitive to it and speak to it. So what are the favored forms of resistance in my experience? Well, comfort is one. It's like my mother would say, you know, I'm sure yours did too, better the devil you know than the one you don't know. Like, you know, I might not be really happy with my life, but hey, at least I know what to expect. You know, it's like, I'm not really having a good time, but I get by. You know, so it's a funny attachment to the comfort of knowing what we have. I also oddly find, particularly in organizations, but also some leaders, success is a huge form of resistance. You know, it comes in the form of, it's not broken, you know, so why fix it? Yeah, well, unfortunately, these days, in some businesses and with some people, things are changing so quickly that if you wait for the time that it is obviously broken, you miss the boat. You know, things just change too fast. So, and then there's some people would say, well, if it's not broken, break it. You know, it's another change strategy. Don't get too comfortable, even with yourself. Kind of keep refreshing and changing and learning. That's kind of how it happens. I actually noticed that I think people are at their most creative when it comes to expressing their resistance to things. It's people who you would not normally call creative, when faced with the change that they're trying to resist, get really, really creative. It's kind of fun to watch.